Hey everybody, I'm Den Haring and welcome back to my channel, Fish Den 365. You know, it's been a little while since I've been out on the water, but yesterday I did get out to a lake I haven't fished in over 25 years. Kearcher Creek Lake out in Hamburg. We went out there not really knowing what to expect. It used to be a numbers lake where you'd catch quite a bit of bass, but not a lot of size. Over the years I heard some things that it's improved. They have big bass regulations on it, and I heard there were some bigger fish in there, so I thought I'd get out there and give it a try yesterday. The big question was, you know, are there a lot of big fish in there or not? And so that was what I went out trying to do. As soon as I got there, right from the launch, there's a point right next to the boat launch, and the first thing I noticed was that there was some very healthy weeds growing there. Deep weeds too, out to 8 to 9 feet of weed growth, depth to the weeds. So I thought this is a good place to start. So I started off by throwing a beaver bait, pitching and flipping into the weeds, and the bite on that was slow initially. I got there around 3:30 in the afternoon and was just throwing on the outside edges. Then I started going further and further back into the weeds, trying to discover where the fish might be. I caught a couple of small bass doing that. Folks, I haven't been here in 25 years. First time back when I used to fish it was known as a numbers lake. A lot of small fish, but I've heard that it's changed. They put big fish regulations on this place, and I hear there's some big fish in here. We're gonna find out today, I hope. Hopefully we're gonna get something a little better than this guy. One of the things that I noticed was that it seemed like a lot of the bait fish and maybe even the bass themselves weren't on the bottom in those weed beds, but they're up off the bottom somewhat, suspended. So I began to throw a Senko, and before I got to those, I actually started at the weed beds, but then I fished along the dam. I caught one in a weed bed at the dam, a very small bass on the beaver, and then I went around to the deep side of the lake where there's a steep bank. It's all wooded and it drops off quicker, and there was a couple of trees in the water, and I got to one tree and I changed over to a Senko. I was wacky rigging a Senko. We'll show you what that looks like in a few minutes. And I caught my best bass over there off one of the fallen trees. Better one? That's definitely a move in the right direction. Let's keep on going and see if we can't beat this one. Get the Senko. I tried some of the other trees that were there. There wasn't a lot of fallen trees, and the ones that were in the water were not completely in the water. It was just a few small branches. But that one fish that I got was, you know, he was in there, and he was the best one I got all day. But a lot of the other trees didn't seem to have any fish on them. So we went back to the weed beds. I went to a different weed bed, a point across from where I started, and started to throw the Senko in there, and we had a flurry of activity there because there were a lot of fish in there and they became active.
on the Senko.
So I used the Senko and caught quite a few there, mostly small ones. But then I used that Senko to locate those fish, and then I ended up using the beaver again to go further into the weeds, and I caught a few bigger ones that way.
A little bit better. Apparently we're at an evening lake here. I think I found some here.
So let me show you the baits I was using and how I rigged the Senko, and we'll go from there. We'll show you what we did. So here's the wacky rig Senko. The wacky rig just means that you're putting the hook in the middle of the bait, and so it's just a different way of rigging. And when you throw this out and the lure falls in the water, the Senko, especially because of the way it's salted, it'll actually move. It'll actually wiggle as it's sinking down. Quite enticing, very effective way to fish this bait. A very effective bait. It catches a lot of fish, and that's one of the strengths of the bait. The color of this Senko, I like this color quite a bit. It's called Baby Bass. It's just basically like a light green color, but it's got gold fleck in it. And in a little bit of stained water in sunlight, that really brings that out, and I think that helps attract the fish. So let me show you a little bit of a closer view of how I actually go about doing this wacky rig, because there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Okay, so the first thing we do here is we grab ourselves a Senko. I was looking for a 4-inch Senko, but unfortunately all I had was 5-inch Senkos. But fear not, all you have to do then is just take scissors and you just cut it off a little bit, right? So maybe the first inch, I was cutting the first inch to 1/4 inch off, so let's just cut this one down. Now it's down to about 4 inches instead of 5. And then I take one of these O-rings. This is a Eagle Claw wacky rigging band, and this is how I can use this bait and not have it tear off so easily. So the first thing I do is I just take the O-ring and I go over the tail of the bait and I just start pulling it up onto the bait. What we want to have is have that O-ring be at the halfway point, so that when I fold the bait over, it's right in the middle. So I'm just gonna Pull that up a little bit. Just got a little bit more to go. Pull it up a little bit more. I went a little too far. Pull it back some. There's about right in the middle. So that's right where we want the O-ring to be. Now, one of the things that I see people do, and you'll catch fish this way, but this will also lose you fish, is if you put the hook in here, just like I'm doing now, and then out. See, this is the problem with this rigging. The hook is in parallel with the bait. See that? It's not perpendicular to it, it's in parallel to it. So it's possible for a fish to grab this bait and not get hooked. He can actually have this bait in his mouth, and it's less likely for him to get hooked. The real way you want to have this hook in the bait is this way, perpendicular. And so there's a couple ways you can do that. You can use two rubber bands, or two rubber of these pieces, although these are pretty thick, it'd be hard to do it, and you'd cross them over each other like this, like the way my hands are, and then the hook would go out that way. But I found that you don't have to be that, you don't have to get to that kind of level. All you got to do is put the hook in the way you would want it, come in one side, out the other side, and there. I'm perpendicular enough, and you can see that I have that quite perpendicular, and I'm still underneath the band. So, and yesterday I had it rigged this way. I didn't lose any fish, and I caught several on the same Senko, so it saves quite a bit of money. And you can see how this thing really flops, and that's what's happening as it's going in the water. You can just let it fall slowly in the water, and then if you jig your rod a little bit, you can give it some action that way. So that's the right way to rig one of these things. You'll get more hookups if that hook is more perpendicular to the bait than parallel to it. Here's just another look at that rigging. Make sure this is in view for you. You can see I have that not parallel, but perpendicular to the bait. Much more hookups that way. A couple of things to remember when you're fishing at a place like this and you get several fish in one area. You always want to come back through that area again with the same bait, but then again afterwards with something different, because if you're getting fish like that, it means there's a concentration of fish in that area. You're probably not catching them all when you go through there, and so going through there with a different bait, something different than what you were using originally to catch fish, can catch you a few more, and sometimes they'll be the bigger fish. So remember that as you're fishing. Well, to answer the question whether or not the fish are bigger or not at Kearcher Creek, you know, I caught quite a few fish, but I certainly didn't light the place on fire with the size of the fish that I caught. However, I will say that that overall, compared to how it used to be when I fished it 25, 30 years ago, you know, it was really difficult to catch a fish over 12 inches back then. That's just how it was, and there was a ton of fish, you know, in that 10 to 11 inch size. So, and there still is, obviously. I found that out yesterday, but there were a couple of fish that I caught that were certainly larger than that, and it makes me think that you know, that there's probably some good sized fish in there. I just didn't get into any of them yesterday. I did try topwater at the end of the day. I was hoping that a toad or a frog bite might pick up in those thick weeds as it got a little darker out, but it never did happen. And we had an east wind, so the conditions weren't quite right for a topwater bite, but I thought I'd give it a shot anyway, thinking that might be some of my bigger fish if I can catch them. So I spent some time doing that near the end of the day yesterday without any success. So my take on Kearcher Creek is, you know, I'll go there again sometime. I like the lake. It's got plenty of fish in it. It doesn't seem to be too heavily pressured. When I got there at 3:30, I don't think there was another boat fishing on the lake. And then one guy came right after I got there. And then, but in the evening, quite a few people came. There were several boats on the water and some kayakers fishing as well. But again, I don't think it's terribly pressured. And, you know, it may be a good lake to fish in the fall and in the spring. I'm kind of curious to see what happens when the water gets cold there and if there's a good blade bait bite there or not. I might have to go out there and give that a shot. And I would think that there would be a very good lipless crankbait bite when those weeds are starting to come up as well. Fishing the beaver, I was using a 3/8 ounce weight on a Texas rig with the beaver, so the fish I caught there, just give you an idea of what I was throwing. I'm not sure that it was the best weight to be throwing. I don't know, you know, if I should have had something lighter for a slower fall, or maybe something heavier for a reaction bite to make that fall faster. Sometimes that works better than anything. So something that I didn't really get a chance to experiment with yesterday. I just pitched the beaver as I had it, and spent quite a bit of time throwing the Senko as well. This bait you can hardly go wrong on. You know, Senko just catches fish in so many different conditions. It's a great bait to have a kid throw if you want to have your child learn artificial lures. This is a really good bait because it catches different species of fish. It catches them under all kinds of conditions. It's just hard to go wrong with a Senko, and fishing at wacky rig like this, as long as you don't have a lot of snags, this is a great way to fish the bait. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, give me the thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already, and when you do, hit that bell. That'll give you a notification for when the next video is coming out. Tell your friends about my channel if you like it. Let them know about it so that they can get some enjoyment from the channel as well. Looking forward to getting back out in the water again soon. Hope to see you out there. And remember, we're certified Bassified, and may God bless your fishing endeavors.